Well, I'd be interested to learn what those impediments
Well, we've
are.
been talking about this for a while. I've sent you letters since
But there's
January.
no impediment on our end to
There
distributing
are
that.
impediments.
There are
I'm
others.
speaking
Part of
directly
it,
to the
Sudan
source.
is a war zone.
Secretary,
I mean,
I'm
that's an
reclaiming my
impediment.
time. This exists
other
as a
impediments.
problem, and you have not acted.
That's false.
And maybe it's the case that you have too many jobs, because I know it's the case. It must be a lot to be the National Security Advisor, the National Archivist, or the head of USAID. That's a lot. I understand a lot of footballs. You're a football player. That's a lot of balls to catch. But the issue here is
All right, we
we
can
have
handle it.
children who are dying. So will you commit to continuing to fund the production, transportation, and distribution of these domestically produced life-saving products to save starving children around the world?
They're approved now. We do more of that than anybody in the world, and we're going to continue to do it. We're going to continue to do food aid. We're going to do more food aid than any country on the planet times 10.
Well, that's a lot of talk. But I believe
Those are numbers.
Seeing is believing, and there
those
is
are
not to
numbers.
be seen.
Those are numbers. Those are facts. We do more foreign aid.
Well,
and
I've
more
got
food
numbers. I've got 185,000 boxes that aren't moving. So,
Yeah, but the State Department doesn't move
I'm going to do you a
boxes.
little favor.
We authorize them to
Mr.
move.
Secretary,
They're
I'm
authorized-
reclaiming my time, sir. I'm going to do
They're
you a
authorized
favor.
to move. Well, you ask questions you don't want anybody answer. I'm telling you, they're allowed
And I
to
have a
move.
question for you, and you're compelled to answer.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to America First, the channel where we don't bow down to the mainstream narrative, and we never apologize for putting American values at the forefront. If you're tired of the political spin, tired of the media shielding the left while smearing anyone who dares to stand up for truth, this is the place for you. So before we dive into today's breakdown, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment where we expose what's really going on in Washington. Now, let's get to the heart of the matter. We're talking about a Senate exchange between Senator Marco Rubio and Representative Gabe Amo that the media is trying to spin as some kind of takedown. Let me be absolutely clear, this was not a takedown. This was a political ambush. A carefully staged performance by a Democrat looking for headlines, not solutions. And we're going to dissect it piece by piece.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Rubio, do you know what this is?
I'm sorry, my Lasix is not as good
That's
as it
all
used to
right.
be.
I'll explain. This is a ready-to-use therapeutic food, also known as a RUF. It's produced in the United States by Adesia Nutrition in Rhode Island and Manny Nutrition in Georgia from American-grown farm products. A single box that I have right here of this miracle product can save a child from dying of severe acute malnutrition in only 6 to 10 weeks. Now, since January, you have promised over and over again that foreign aid freezes will not include life-saving assistance. RUFs save the lives of children who are starving around the world. Do you agree that this product is life-saving aid?
It can be, yes.
Well, Secretary Rubio, the World Food Program estimates that 8,000 children die from hunger every day. Until last Friday, over 123,000 RUF boxes were purchased for Sudan, but were sitting in Rhode Island in a warehouse because of State Department delays. So my question for you is, are you doing everything you can to keep starving children from
There was
dying?
no State Department delays to that being deployed. There may have been other delays, but it wasn't State Department.
There were State Department delays. And it is clear that you have not done everything you can do to keep these kids from starving, because there are
no State
another
Department delays.
185,000 boxes of RUFs that the U.S. government and taxpayers have already paid for sitting in that same warehouse, all because the State Department doesn't have a plan, doesn't have its stuff together to get this rolling. So I can think of several countries where this aid is desperately needed, where these boxes of RUFs could save hundreds of thousands of children's lives. And these delays have real consequences, not just for starving children, but also jobs at home. I talked to the CEO of Adesia, who said they had to lay off 10% of their team due to the lack of payments from the U.S. government and a lack of clarity in March. So Secretary Rubio, will you commit to making decisions needed to move the remaining 185,000 boxes of RUFs to countries that need them by the end of this week?
Well, I'd be interested to learn what those impediments
Well,
are.
we've been talking about this for a while. I've sent you letters since
But there's
January.
no impediment on our end to
There
distributing
are
that.
impediments.
There are
I'm
others.
speaking
Part of
directly
it,
to the
Sudan
source.
is a war zone.
Secretary, I'm
that's an
reclaiming my
impediment.
time. This exists
other
as a
impediments.
problem, and you have not acted.
That's false.
And maybe it's the case that you have too many jobs, because I know it's the case. It must be a lot to be the National Security Advisor, the National Archivist, or the head of USAID. That's a lot. I understand a lot of footballs. You're a football player. That's a lot of balls to catch. But the issue here is
All right, we
we
can
have
handle it.
children who are dying. So will you commit to continuing to fund the production, transportation, and distribution of these domestically produced life-saving products to save starving children around the world?
They're approved now.
They are not moving. I just told you about
Oh,
185,000 boxes in Rhode Island. I
And
live
you
there.
need to figure out why they're not moving, because it isn't an impediment from us.
Sir, you need to figure out. That's actually your job, sir.
No, it's no impediment from the State Department.
Well, Mr.
There may be
Secretary, it
logistical
seems like you
impediments that have
will not
nothing to
make
do
a
with
commitment.
us.
Sir, it seems like you refuse to make a
We do
commitment.
more of that than anybody in the world, and we're going to continue to do it. We're going to continue to do food aid. We're going to do more food aid than any country on the planet times 10.
Well, that's a lot of talk, but I believe
Those are numbers.
Seeing is believing, and
But
there
those
is
are
not to
numbers.
be seen.
Those are numbers. Those are facts. We do more foreign aid.
Well,
and
I've
more
got
food
numbers. I've got 185,000 boxes that aren't moving. So,
Yeah, but the State Department doesn't move
I'm going to do you a
boxes.
little favor.
We authorize them to
Mr.
move, and they're
Secretary, I'm
authorized-
reclaiming my time, sir. I'm going to
They're
do you a
authorized
favor.
to move. Well, you ask questions you don't want anybody answer. I'm telling you, they're allowed
And
to
I have
move.
a question for you, and you're compelled to answer. Why don't you take 10 seconds now to turn to your staff and say, let's get this fixed?
My staff knows that this has been fixed.
No, it
There's no
hasn't been
impediment on the
fixed.
State
Well,
Department
then
side.
you have not proven that to me. If the people who are affected, both here domestically and around the world, are not receiving this life-saving product.
They are receiving it.
Look, you staked your career in the Senate on supporting humanitarian aid, but now you won't make a commitment, or you're saying things have been done that
already
haven't
made
been
a
done.
commitment.
You've made a commitment?
We do more food aid than anybody
You are
in the world,
talking
and we're
about,
doing
you are
more
talking
today
in
than
general.
anybody in the world.
Secretary, I'm reclaiming my time. You are speaking in generalities. I'm talking about
I'm
specifics.
speaking in specifics. We do more than anybody in the world, and we're doing more than anybody in the world right now at this very moment.
That's hyperbole, sir, because this has been disrupted
does more?
because of your
Who does more?
freezing of aid.
Who does more food aid than the United States?
Sir, why are you asking me questions? My job is to ask you
Well,
questions.
you're the one that's claiming that we're not.
Secretary,
Tell
I'm
me who
reclaiming
does
my time.
more food aid
Secretary,
than
I'm
we
reclaiming
do?
my time. This is why I'm introducing the Rubio Act. So you focus on the one job that the Senate gave you to serve as our Secretary of State because you are clearly distracted, okay? After the last few months, I understand why President Trump has such colorful nicknames for you. You're obedient. You're following the rules. You will do anything the president tells you to do without regard for the law, the Constitution, America's security, or standing as a leader in the world. Unlike you, I do not fear crossing Donald Trump. I refuse to give up on these children. I will be calling you once a week until you take action to fund RUTF and actually prove that you're doing this job to make sure you know how many children have died on your watch. Will you pick up my call?
No children are dying on
Will
our
you
watch.
pick up my call, sir?
Pick up your call?
When I call you to check in on your progress.
Our
Gentleman's
progress
time
is
has
already being
expired.
made. We already do
Representative
more than
Mills is
anybody in the world.
recognized.
No, but he's made some strong accusations here. We're doing more than anybody in the world. That food is being distributed now, and he knows that.
Very good.
Amo comes out swinging, waving around a box of therapeutic food, RUTF, and acts like this is some sort of courtroom drama. He tries to paint a picture where Rubio and the State Department are cold-hearted bureaucrats sitting on mountains of life-saving food aid while children die overseas. That's the emotional hook, right? Get the soundbite, get the headline, make the right wing look like the bad guys. But folks, that's not how real leadership works. Rubio didn't blink. He didn't flinch. He calmly and firmly stated that the delays in shipping that food aid were not caused by the State Department. And that's not just spin. That's a fact backed by documentation and communications. But what does Amo do? He talks over him, reclaims his time, interrupts, accuses. He wasn't there to find solutions. He was there to smear. Let's take a step back. The United States gives more humanitarian aid than any country in the world, and I mean by far. We're not just leading the pack. We're setting the standard. We fund, we produce, we ship, and we save lives. And yet somehow, every time a left-wing politician needs to virtue signal, they find a way to act like America, and conservatives like Rubio are the problem. And here's the most infuriating part. Amo had the audacity to claim that these delays are hurting not only starving children, but also American workers. He says companies like Adea Nutrition are laying people off because the State Department won't move fast enough. But here's the truth. The State Department did its job. The authorization is there. The holdup is elsewhere, likely in bureaucratic mismanagement within other parts of the Biden administration. But rather than looking in the mirror, Amo points fingers. Then Amo tries to get clever. He says, "You have too many jobs, Rubio." He mocks Rubio's leadership, claims he's distracted, that he's not doing enough. Think about that. This man is attacking one of the few public servants who actually understands the importance of U.S. global leadership, who actually fights for humanitarian aid, but does it the right way, through strength and efficiency, not virtue signaling. And just when you think the theatrics are over, Amo brings up Trump. Because of course he does. He tries to paint Rubio as obedient to President Trump, claiming he only does what he's told, that he's ruled by fear, and that he's more concerned about Trump's approval than global suffering. This is what the left does every time they run out of facts. They pull the Trump card. It's predictable. It's tired. And frankly, it's insulting. What Amo fails to understand is that Rubio, like many of us, respects President Trump because he delivers results. He doesn't bow to the globalist elite. He doesn't apologize for defending American interests. And yes, he made humanitarian aid a priority, but without compromising our nation's values, our security, or our economic stability. That's leadership. That's putting America first and helping the world, not sacrificing one for the other. Amo wants to introduce something called the Rubio Act as some sort of sarcastic jab. He thinks mocking Rubio with legislation will earn him credibility. But here's the irony. If the goal is to move aid faster, reduce red tape, and hold agencies accountable, Rubio would probably support that, as long as it actually solves problems instead of adding more bloated bureaucracy. Let's be real. This entire exchange wasn't about solving hunger. It wasn't about helping children. It was about headlines. It was about trying to embarrass a conservative senator who's been standing tall while the left burns credibility by the day. Amo wanted a viral clip. Rubio wanted to focus on results. And that's the difference between their side and ours. They chase cameras. We chase solutions. They worship optics. We worship accountability. And when people like Gabe Amo try to weaponize emotion to push a narrative that ignores facts and trashes the people actually doing the hard work, we call them out. So here's what I want you to take away from this. We need more leaders like Marco Rubio. Leaders who won't be bullied, who won't fall for political theater, and who will keep doing what's right even when it's unpopular with the press or the DC elite. And we need to reject this idea that the way to measure compassion is through camera stunts in a Senate hearing. If you believe in truth over theatrics, action over empty words, and putting America first, then this is your channel. Make sure you're subscribed. Share this video far and wide. Let people see the real story, not the spin, not the drama, the truth. We are the movement. We are the voice they can't silence. And we will keep calling out the lies, exposing the hypocrisy, and standing up for American values, no matter how loud they scream. This is America first, and we're just getting started.